Hello, I'm Toby Mankertz. I'm a business transformation advisor at Columbus. This Columbus podcast is about how not to fail when implementing machine learning and artificial intelligence into your manufacturing organization. I'm joined today by Nick Litrengraus, who's our head of business intelligence.
Hello.
Hello, Nick. And on my right, I've got Kevin Bull, who's our product director. Hi, Kevin.
Hello.
Hi. So at Columbus, we get asked to help projects to recover. So projects that have been in flight, we get asked that a lot, don't we? To say, look, it's not working, whatever reason, they're not getting what they want from their systems, from their technology. Columbus, can you come in? Can you help, get us back on track, that sort of thing? And we get a lot of these recovery projects, but also when we engage with customers for the first time, we also are in the position where we can advise them of how to avoid failures. IT projects are, as you both really well know, are a massive investment financially and time and resource. So getting those right and not allowing them to drag on over the estimated timeline and budget is something that's quite important to all organizations. So we've been talking about AI and machine learning for a little while now, and in our last episode we were talking about Gartner's hype curve, which really clearly describes how we get to this kind of pinnacle of, inflated expectations about how AI and machine learning can help us, swiftly followed by the trough of disillusionment, and then the slope of enlightenment and the plateau of productivity. I mean, this is all tripping off the tongue. But often, as I say, when we inherit programs, sometimes people are right in that trough, and they really can't see their way out. But also when we start programs, I guess we owe it to our customers to explain to them they may go on this journey. In fact, they probably will go on this journey. So, do you want to just reflect on that and bring that a little bit more to life for us? Why Gartner are talking about this in the context of AI and machine learning right now?
Obviously, there's a lot of hype around AI, and with that comes expectations. And these organisations have this expectation around AI that they'll get the technology to implement it, and it will solve loads of problems, and it will open up loads of doors, and it will be really enlightening, and et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, like you say, we go into these organisations and they're right in that trough of disillusionment. And actually, they probably shouldn't be. They probably should still be at that peak of inflated expectations. But they've had a go themselves, or they've had another organisation have a go with them. But they've just been focused on the technology alone. And they've got really excited about that, and they've implemented some technology solutions. They've implemented some AI somewhere, but they've not tied that technology to the value. Like, why are we doing this? What do we want from this? It's just that looks exciting, let's do that. But actually you need to take a step back and think, okay, if we do this, what is the benefit? What is the output? What is the tangible value it's going to give to us? Which is something that we focus on when we do proof of concepts and pilots, is is it going to give immediate value?
Pilot purgatory. Explain that to me.
Okay, so the idea where you do these pilot phases, or you look at these potential use cases, and you'll do a bit of work around it. You'll prove something, and then again it might just focus on the technology, and then it just sits there in purgatory, and somebody might be using it, but it's never scaled. You never realise the true value of it.
And it goes back to your point, I guess, about it's never been linked to business outcomes. This might be a little bit of techno-tourism of somebody in an IT department gone, I just want to play with this piece of technology and see where it can take me.
I've automated part of my job, maybe. Right. I've seen personal value from it, potentially. Yeah. And that's why it sits there in purgatory, because a department's using it, or a person is using it. But actually, you should have focused on what's going to have a broader impact for bigger value.
When we come into organizations, we talk about outcomes first. We talk about the why. Simon Sinek's golden circle start with why, how, and then what. Why are you investing in this IT program? What are you hoping to achieve from your organization? How does this IT program align to your business plans and your business objectives? And how do you make sure that those are linked? And for me, one of the earliest and biggest wins we look for is how do we take IT projects out of the sort of mental perception of the IT department own these to actually, these aren't IT projects, these are business transformation projects. The tool that we're going to deliver is not just, it's not for the benefit of the IT department, it's for the benefit of the organization. You know, Kevin, if we talk about manufacturing organizations who are going to adopt AI and machine learning, I mean, if you've got a couple of use cases, you could perhaps help just to provide some context around these. We can show how actually it's the end users, maybe even the shop floor users, who are going to actually exploit the system most.
Absolutely. You think about predictive maintenance as being perhaps one of the classic ones that often when we're manufacturing, we've got lots of equipment that we need to maintain, that we need to get the most efficiency out of and get the most value out of, because they're expensive pieces of equipment to maintain and run at the end of the day. So the ability to have AI and machine learning to start to tell us from sensor information that something is likely to fail in the next X number of days, X number of weeks, becomes really important, because we can then factor that into the scheduling and so on that we do for that. But of course, the engineers that are doing that task might be questioning, why am I being told that now? I normally do this on a Monday, or I do this just when that light comes on. So a different set of circumstances that you've got to bring those people along with you. Both, and there are plenty of other examples as well when we think about the shop floor. You know, same for people that are having to now start to record, use a touch screen, for example. These might be people that have been working in that factory for 20, 30 years, that know that bit of machinery inside out and give it a good kick when it's failing and it just suddenly starts up again. You know, the people that know everything intimately. How do we start to tell them that they've got to now press this button over here because it's capturing time, because we need to capture that amount of time because it's got a cost to it? You know, it's a difficult kind of environment to actually be in, because these are wizened people that very much know what they do.
You're right. This is significant change for them. This is cultural change. This is behavioural change that we're asking them to act in a different way. So you're right. It's not easy. I think where we would start, when we talk about start with the outcome in mind, if we were to take your demand forecasting example and we said, well, the reason we're doing this is because we want to reduce our maintenance budget. We want to increase the uptime of our machines, reduce the mean time, increase the mean time to failure, and you know, all of these things. If we can put it in language that shop floor workers can understand, so that it's not just a whole lot of kind of IT mumbo jumbo. It's actually, do you know what, this machine just needs to be more effective, more efficient, and we need to help you to understand how many spare parts we need to buy to consume per annum on each of these pieces of machinery. We would suggest and recommend that we brought a cross-organisation group of people together, maybe 10 or 12 people from the exec team, the management team, the shop floor team, different departments, members of the IT guys, and workshopped with them the why. We start from day one in aligning people's mindsets about why are we implementing this technology in the first place? Because naturally, we've talked about this before as well, there's going to be a lot of fear, I'd imagine, about, well, I'm going to be replaced. You know, my job's going to be defunct. You know, and you've got people who are going to be very defensive, thinking that this piece of technology is just here to do away with me and my 30 years worth of experience, you know, and whatever it might be. So I think if you start and you understand and you help to envision the issues that you've got with implementing AI into your organization, what are our risks, what are our constraints, what are our barriers to success, what's going to go wrong? Let's ask the people who know. Let's ask the people who work with it on a daily basis. Let's ask for the people who are paying for it, and let's ask the people who've got to report to the shareholders about it as well. So let's get everyone's viewpoint so that from day one, people start to become familiar with the project. They start to see it as their project and not an IT of just pushing this system on us, and you know, Monday morning in 12 months' time, suddenly we've got to log into this new machine. Actually, if you get this right, these business should be pulling that project from IT. They should be excited about it. They should be looking forward to engaging with it because they already understand the benefits and embrace it. So we start that way, don't we? We talk about outcomes. We talk about business value over here. Because all of those things ultimately deliver business value. They'll make you operationally more efficient. They might make you more profitable, maybe potentially improve your revenue in some cases as well. So start with your business value, understand how you're going to measure that business value. And then over here, you've got this technology, this thing called AI, or this thing called machine learning, or called ERP or CRM, whatever it's called. This is over here. The gap in the middle between those bits of technology over here and the outcomes over here is business change and organizational change. What's got to happen for such that if I implement this technology, I get that value? Because it's not just flicking a switch and turning it on. It's not a panacea. It's, well, I need to make sure my data's right. And data is often not right, as we all know. I mean, data is often in an organization, it's evolved rather than be designed,
And it's often not complete. That's probably some of the biggest points sometimes. When we are thinking about introducing AI and machine learning, you get the more data you consume, the different areas of data that you consume that maybe correlate between the results that you're getting at the end of the day as well. So quite often businesses just do not have that data.
You're absolutely right. And maybe partly the reason for that is the other thing that's not right is maybe processes aren't followed. They may well be present, they may well be in place, and there's, everything's beautifully process mapped. But do people really follow them? And more often than not, no is the answer, because there's always quicker ways to do something in an organisation with that. So processes need to reflect reality. Or people need to understand the importance of adherence to process. But it's the people are the wild card, first and foremost. And
it's those people understanding how their actions and the things they do in their day-to-day job impact other people within the business. We were talking a moment ago about when you have these conversations, make sure you have like cross-functional people in there.
Yes.
You're not just talking to IT, you're not just talking to shop floor. Actually, the group of people you're talking to, or if what they do impacts what they do. So let's talk to those people at the same time so they understand that. Because I bet when you have these conversations, someone will go, oh, I didn't know that impacted you like that.
All the time. Upstream, downstream, impact. You're absolutely right. Consequences of doing or not doing certain things. People do what they do at work very, very well, and they go in and no one really comes to work wanting to do a bad job. Everyone wants to do a good job, but they don't understand that their way of making sure they're doing a good job could impact negatively on other people, right?
And you were saying about how you have these processes and yet everything's beautifully process mapped.
Yeah.
And someone up here, right, that gives the illusion of processes are being followed, and it's like, well,
I can tick the boxes.
We've got these
ISO 9001. I've got
swim lanes.
Exactly.
They're following them, but actually, when you talk to the people, it's like people find shortcuts. Okay, you implement an ERP system, and they know they probably should input. You were saying about how data's not complete. And a lot of the time that's because they know they can click next.
Yeah, it's the impacts of that starts to become really relevant though, because if I'm missing that step out, I'm not recording a cost or whatever it is, it just throws the financial information out. And the impact of that is, as somebody that's trying to deliver business improvements, I don't know where the gaps are, I don't know what I need to fill in, I don't know where I can make improvements. So
that's where those like cross-functional conversations are really important.
They really are. And as I say, if you can get people in a room, even a virtual room on Teams or around a conference table or whatever it might be, and facilitate that conversation so that, with the end in mind of, well, actually what we're trying to do here, guys, is use technology to make this a bit better for all of us. So what do we need for it to be better? What defines better? So let's flush out those problems where someone thinks they're doing the right thing because, but not understanding the detrimental impact of what.
And it's not, and those organisations probably need to realise it's not a unique problem they've got.
No.
We speak to organisations, and it's the same problems.
Yes, it is.
And because we have those conversations, we've had them for years. We know how to resolve them.
Exactly. And I mean, we've almost got it as a kind of catchphrase now, but we're always going to hear the phrase "single source of the truth." It's always going to come out there. We need a single source of the truth. We need to be able to have data-derived insights. These sorts of things, and you do. You're right. Absolutely. And you can get there if people understand how the part they play in delivering those outcomes. So how not to fail is to start with that, what's the end of that curve called? The plateau of productivity.
Yes.
Yes?
Correct.
Hey, I'm getting the hang of this. Start with, what is your organisation going to look like when you're really good at adopting and implementing AI and machine learning? What's it going to look and feel like? Let's imagine a future state here. You know, what's going to be right in your organisation? What's going to be correct? What's going to be in place? Training of people, communication. You know, when you employ new starters, they understand and they are onboarded correctly, so they understand how they're expected to interact with technology. Processes are correct for what you actually do, not what you think you do. Data's in the right place, and it's easy to get it right and difficult to get it wrong. All of those things. So if we can start to get organisations to collectively paint that picture of what that's going to look like, then it's quite easy then, when you've aligned people on that outcome, to work back to the current state. And this is where you have to manage a little bit of disillusionment when you go, oh yeah, but it's not really good now. But actually, it can be, because I think we all know what we want now, which is half the battle, knowing what good looks like in our organisation.
I think that's an interesting point, though, because not everybody knows what good looks like when they're set out.
True.
So you are going to get to a point, and I'm a big advocate, and manufacturing actually is a big advocate for continuous improvement. Yeah. So little steps, little steps, little steps. You might get to a stage where you've implemented something and you've started to get some good results, but how much further can you go? Continuous improvement should be there all the way, and we have to manage that as well.
I agree. And funnily enough, I was talking to one of our customers only last week about this, and they don't have, they've yet, as an organisation up until now, really bought into continuous improvement. They've just implemented a system. They did really well on user adoption of that system. They're seeing the benefits of having the right data in the right format coming through. And they're talking about enhancing that system now and switching on new bits of functionality as they come out, you know, and so on and so forth. So I said, it's an interesting phrase, continuous improvement. You've got to consider each word. So it's never going to stop, you know, and you need to therefore have people in place who are always thinking about how you can make it better. And it's supposed to be an improvement. It doesn't want to be a backward step. So it needs to be collectively an improvement. So we don't fall back into that well-worn groove of short-circuiting or short-cutting processes because you think you're adding
because
value.
That misconception, isn't there, that you often see when people implement new systems, you know, be it like ERP system, for example, that it's going to be a whole new world and it's going to solve all their problems. But if you don't resolve the bad habits of the previous system, you know, and we can apply this to implementing AI as well, if you don't resolve those bad habits, like finding those shortcuts and getting around things, they're just going to come with you. And you're going to be doing the same thing in 5 years. You'll be implementing a new one thinking it's going to solve all your problems.
Exactly. And I know it's a bit trite to say, but go live of a new system is just a starting point.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and everyone says that, but it's true. It's absolutely the starting point. And I've worked in organisations where someone leaves and they get a new starter and go, oh, what permissions do they need in the finance system? Oh, give them the last guy's permissions. I don't know, you know, and you end up then, because roles change over time in organisations, you end up with people who've got more access to systems or less access to systems than they need. No one really understands how, they haven't really been onboarded properly, and no one's asking them in their annual appraisal, do you know how to raise a sales order? Why don't you show me in the sandbox system that you can raise a sales order, because that's part of your job. You know, so there's some simple tweaks you can do.
Oh, you mean what you're talking about there is governance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Make sure that's implemented properly, and it's a boring word, right? And I've been there, and people said you need to do it this way. I'm like, oh, but it's quicker if I do it that way, right? But it's important, and that's why it's important again to have those kind of cross-functional conversations when you're talking around governance. Because again, it's like, if I do this, it's going to impact that person in this way.
And if you can engender a culture of true continuous improvement, so that if you feel it's quicker to do something another way, that you've got someone to tell that to, so why can't I do it this way? And then that can be considered.
And some of the best people for actually doing that are the people that are on the shop floor. If you've brought them along that journey, you've convinced them of, yes, this is going to be good for the business, and this is why we're doing it. They're bought into that continuous improvement just becomes so much easier, because they are the people that are seeing it day in, day out. They know all the pitfalls, they know where they trip over, and they're great people to have on board, really.
So envisioning business value and how to achieve it day one from the implementation technology is one thing. periodic re-envisioning after you've gone live with, well, now what can I do? You know, because we talk about business value for a second. If you're embarking on an AI or machine learning project, okay, you can consider 3 different types of value. I consider it to be. There's early value. That's value you can get before you switch on any technology. That's just because you've sorted out your data in readiness for your system. That's just because you've talked to people about processes. You've engaged with people across the organisation, so you're getting more alignment as well. There's enabled value that you get because you've switched that system on, and there's a new way of working, and then suddenly we can do something we couldn't do before, and that's more operationally efficient, or it's going to generate more revenue for us. And then there's unified value, and that usually occurs sometime after you've gone live. It's when people have really embraced the system, and they're really starting to exploit it, and they're coming back to you and going, wouldn't it be better if, like exactly what you're saying, you know, why don't we just do that, and etc. And then you get this, so your processes are correct, your data's correct, your system's correct, your people are trained and willing to use it. You're starting to get this, the value that was put in someone's business case 18 months ago when it went to the board for sign-off of this investment. You actually, if you kept that business case, that benefits case active, and held yourself to account against it, then you can drive your actions throughout the whole life of that program to ensure you keep getting that, and you don't drift away. I talk about value drift. It's when you just take your eye off that ball about why you did this thing, and you don't give people the right permissions in the system, you don't onboard people correctly, you don't assess them, you don't look after your data, and you don't audit it, and all of those things. So you'll move away from that value.
Yeah, and the danger of that is, as an example, if you haven't got enough security rights, you start making your own little system over here. Yeah. Usually it's in a spreadsheet, of course, but it's suddenly diverging, and that data is going some completely different direction to the rest of the system at that point. So there's a real danger in there that you're missing out on a whole opportunity just to bring whatever they are doing there, whatever value that is adding to the business, into the core that everybody can take advantage of and support.
So I think what you're talking about here is throughout the whole process and post go live. Am I right in saying that it's making sure that you have the right and effective feedback loops in place?
Absolutely.
That people feel empowered to do that. You're talking about people that use systems on shop floor. That you're right, they're often probably the people that are using them most effectively.
Yeah.
You know, but actually the way they're using them, is that being fed back to the wider business?
So I think if I was listening to this podcast now and I got this far, thank you for staying on, but I'd be asking, well, come on then guys, how do you do this? How do you do this? How not to fail? This is why I signed up for this. So you're right, it's about engagement with all areas of the business. I don't really, levels of the organisation, if you will, all the way from the top down to whoever is, ensuring people understand, ensuring that people are consulted such that they feel that they have some ownership. So they asked me about what did I want from the new system. I was involved in the workshop, or my mate was involved in the workshop, and we were able to tell that person before they went to the workshop all about our problems, and those were represented right at the start. So engender that by having a cross section of people in a workshop. I would normally say as well that it's quite easy to work out who you want in a workshop at a shop floor level in an organisation, because they kind of pick themselves. They're usually the people whose voice you hear the most, the people with the opinions, the people who are the first to complain. So you want to hear from them. They've usually got some quite good ideas, and they're usually quite frustrated people. So get them involved, convince them that this is not going to replace them, unless of course it is, but that's highly unlikely. And ask them to represent the project for you as a change agent. And then back that up. Back that up with engagement and communication plans that work. So don't just stick a poster on the wall. Don't just send an email. Work out what mixed media is going to work. Maybe the chief exec needs to record a video or something, or a quick blog about what this is all about. But maybe someone on the shop floor needs to record a video too. And maybe at different levels that needs to happen. Whatever communications works well in your organisation, use it. Make sure everyone hears about it. Keep asking people for their feedback. You're quite right. Keep asking them for feedback. Engage with them have a plan to ask them for feedback. make it competitive if you want to. If you've got shifts on your shop floor, then, user engagement with the new system, so-and-so posted so many transactions, or this shift posted so many transactions, so shift A is ahead of shift B and shift C, make it a little bit of a competition, make it friendly, fun, give prizes, and literally various other things such as having tips of the day for how to use the system, record those, get your IT department to help. I mean, I'm running a bit dry here on how, but I'm sure there's many other examples you can think of.
If you're talking about, go back to the technology bit and applying AI and ML technologies, it's making sure that you make sure it doesn't appear like it's a forced solution, like it's an overcomplicated solution.
Everybody needs the buy-in, don't they?
To something simple, And again, going back to the bit where I was saying around how making sure that the technology applies to the value.
Exactly.
As well.
Link it back to the objective, link it back to the outcomes at all times. Yeah.
And constantly communicating that as well. And as you're developing it, showing the benefits of it, not hiding them away and showing that it actually only affects one department, but showing everybody the benefits.
Celebrating the successes, right?
Yeah.
If we've now got a view of demand, because we've implemented an AI system which is going to help with demand forecasting, and we can show that actually we've now saved, even if we've saved a couple £100 this week because of the new system, say that, shout about it, and maybe next week it's a couple of grand, and who knows, and just show that these things are getting better because people are engaging with it, and create a good news story around it.
Because a lot, the people in an organisation may not be involved directly with the project, but they want to know about it. They want to know how it's affecting the business, because something that affects the business ultimately affects them.
Exactly.
And they may know it's rumbling on. They may know this project's happening. If you don't communicate it, people will jump to their own conclusions.
People want to know what's in it for them, and how they're expected to engage.
Yeah.
So, how not to fail with the implementation of AI and machine learning? In summary, start with the outcome. So start with the outcome of the project. If you're switching on demand forecasting enhanced by AI, what's that going to look like? And how are we going to, what are we expecting? Let's all agree that, we're going to make £5 million a year savings because of this project. Let's all agree on that number. And then we know that number is viable because this is how we're going to derive that number. And let's work out that outcome ourselves collectively, with engagement across the organisation, and bring it back to technology. So that's the business case. This is the expectation. Be clear on that. But beyond that, perhaps at a more macro level, think about this plateau of productivity. What do I want my organisation to be in 3 years' time, 5 years' time, because I'm familiar with and comfortable with implementing AI and machine learning into processes and areas of my organisation where it fits. So what does that look like? What sort of organisation am I, or are we, that allows us to collectively embrace the opportunities presented by AI and machine learning, and get them out of this pilot purgatory and get them into the organisation? How do we streamline that process? So start with the outcome, put people at the centre of what you're doing, be able to articulate to them what's in it for them, what's expected of them, how they can play a part, how they can proffer their opinion on what needs to be different, engage with them, bring them in to that inner circle so they feel that it's not being done to them, it's being done with them and for them. Make sure your data and your processes are robust and correct and reflect how you actually work, not how you might want to work. And keep checking in with people. Create continuous improvement activities, invest in that, create engagement, create communication, and all of these things underpinned by good governance, so you're always looking at maintaining that value that's being delivered by your investment and your implementation. And then look for new value. See what else you can do because of this. Thank you for listening. Hope you found that useful. And we look forward to seeing you again on another podcast. Thank you very much. Goodbye.